You're listening to Level Up with Wondr, a podcast where we take listeners on a journey through the exciting world of gaming, tech, and innovation. Join the Wondr Nation team as we talk with a diverse group of pros who have taken their skills to the next level.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Level Up with Wondr. I'm Deanne Marvel, Vice President of Marketing Strategy and Operations here at Wondr Nation. We are recording this episode in the month of May, which is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and we are so happy to be joined today by Manjit Gombra Singh. Manjit is a gaming executive with decades of experience at companies including Sun Microsystems, IGT, Aristocrat, and PointsBet. With a background in software engineering, he has developed award-winning products and led global teams. He is currently the CEO and founder of DruvStar, a cybersecurity company focused on gaming and healthcare. And he is also an investor at Sand Hill Angels, where he supports early-stage startups in the technology sector. Manjit, welcome to Level Up with Wondr.
Thank you, Danny. It's very nice to be here.
We are happy to have you. So let's start with talking about your background. If you can tell us about your background, how you started, and what led you to where you are today.
Thank you. I started as a technology engineer, software engineer about 30 years back. Over the years, I worked in technology for about 20 years and worked in gaming for about 18 years. I worked for Sun Microsystems for nearly a decade. And my field of work was really engineering, software engineering. I worked on systems management products. I worked on some technologies that became part of the Solaris operating system. Prior to that, I worked for a few small companies in the Bay Area here as a software engineer. After Sun Microsystems, I found my way to IGT, which was the top gaming company at that time, and worked there as a director of software engineering in San Francisco for a few years in the interactive division of IGT, where I led a team that was building interactive iGaming products at that time. Subsequently, I found my way to Aristocrat, which was one of the top companies in the world at that time, but it wasn't the top company. I was hired as part of the management team that executed a strategy under our CEO's leadership, and that has helped transform Aristocrat into the number one casino gaming company, technology company. And subsequently, I founded DruvStar, which we'll be talking about a bit more later.
Awesome. So you left Sun Microsystems after a decade to go into gaming, specifically at IGT. So why? What compelled you to go into the gaming industry?
I'd worked in the pure B2B technology field for nearly a decade and a half prior to that. So I was pretty conversant with the technology trends, the ability to develop new technologies, to help scale systems, to build secure systems. And it just so happened that there were a few people from Sun Microsystems who had actually found their way to IGT before me. And so that's how I discovered about the gaming industry. It was through my interactions with them that I learned of an opportunity at IGT to lead their engineering team in San Francisco. I went through the usual process of getting recruited. And I remember that at that time, when I was leaving Sun Microsystems, really, there were a few areas I could have gone into. One was gaming, because I saw that as an emerging, growing trend. The other one was financial technology, which was at early stages of digital transformation. So it was very lucky that I got into gaming through that exercise.
So over the course of your career, you have worked at IGT, Aristocrat, and PointsBet, where you've done some innovative things like building out the first RGS system in the US at IGT, building out mobile for Aristocrat, and building out the team and product for PointsBet. So what was it like to be at the forefront of these innovations in gaming?
It has been wonderful. I've really had a good ride. Fortunate to have worked with many talented people. The problem we were facing 20 years back was that there was this large content portfolio that companies like IGT had. They had very successful games that had been launched worldwide. And the consumers were going more and more towards the internet. They were going more and more towards mobile. So the challenge we had was, how do we bring this content portfolio, which is very attractive, to those new distribution channels? You know, the remote game server, it's become an industry. term, but remote game server was actually a term that was really used by IGT's team that was building the system. I was part of that team, and we launched that product in the UK market where gambling was legal and we could distribute content in a regulated market. And so that was one of the very first deployments of a remote game system, which really powers the iGaming industry worldwide as we know it today. I've been very fortunate to see that happen a few times, whether that's about mobile gaming at Aristocrat or with the sports betting product at PointsBet. Really, there are a few things that have been instrumental in helping define how these products need to shape. The first one is really developing an understanding of where the consumer is going to be doing, what are their behaviors. We had to learn through that, and we had to develop technology to power that experience. The second thing is then defining a product that provides an enriching experience to the consumer, a product that offers you not just an attractive feature set, but also is reliable and has fewer friction points. That's been true for iGaming, that's true for mobile gaming, that'll be true for any number of products that one might work on. And the third one is really building your team, a capable team that is able to deliver to that vision to meet the consumer demand.
Awesome. Absolutely. So, as you think about all of your experiences that you've had, what would you say are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned throughout this journey of your career?
I think I would call out three things. The first one is that one needs to have a product strategy that addresses a large problem. Now, that doesn't have to be a large problem immediately or in the short term, but it has to have a large potential. It's got to be worth your time to invest in that. Working in a niche market has never been that attractive to me. I got to be able to see what the opportunity here is. And so I lean towards chasing problems that are likely to become large and try to tap into that early on. And that strategy has worked for me several times in my career. The second one is that client experience is really the only metric that matters. When you build a product or a business, what is it that the client is getting, and what do they feel about it? And
Mm-hmm.
and then the third thing I would say is, as I've run a few businesses, I've come to believe that retaining a client is far more important than acquiring new clients, and that's true for B2C world, equally true for B2B world.
Absolutely. Retention is critical. It is absolutely critical. So, also thinking about your journey, what are some of the challenges you face working your way to where you are today? And what are some solutions you have for how to overcome them?
As I think about that question, most of the challenges that I would talk about are execution related.
Mm.
That's like once you identified a problem and you've decided to go after solving that problem, what's your execution strategy behind that?
Mm-hmm.
One of the first lessons I would talk about is really that you got to develop a product which is MVP. As a systems guy, as a person who focuses on the broad picture, it's very, very easy for me to get carried away and say, well, I got to have this, then this, and this,
Mm-hmm.
and a few other things, right? Um, that is fine, except that cannot be your execution strategy. It's much more effective to launch with a product that has the basic feature set that you can get the feedback from the clients on. The second thing I would talk about is to keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
What really matters in the end is that you've identified a problem, you're able to solve at least a portion of that problem. But what matters is it's a high quality solution. It's a reliable solution. It has to be there when the consumer or the client needs it. It's got to be secure as well, because it's very easy to erode confidence in a new product when it's not reliable and it's not secure. The third thing I'll talk about is about time and money. Now, the thing I've learned is you never have enough of that. Launching a business or launching a product. So you have to learn to prioritize around what's really important to get to the next step, which meets your overall strategy. And so those are three things that I would call out are the challenges that I've had to face, which I've learned to overcome through those strategies.
Yeah. And I think, we all face those strategies. And anyone that's working in innovation, like you said, in terms of like getting that MVP out, you're working on something new, you can iterate and iterate, and you're like, it's not perfect, but you got to get it in market. And then we can iterate, but just taking that step is critically important. Definitely all of them kind of ring home, but that one especially there. So let's talk about DruvStar. Tell our listeners all about DruvStar. What does DruvStar do? Who are your customers?
Yeah, DruvStar is a cybersecurity technology company based in the US with its security operations center in Las Vegas. We are out to make a difference around the space of cybersecurity attacks. We want to defend our clients, and we do defend our clients around cybersecurity risk. The way we do that is by providing modern technology solutions which can be applied to try and understand where there is cybersecurity risk in a business on a daily basis. And then we provide managed services on the back of our technology. This is a problem that cuts across multiple industries. And as a business, we have chosen to focus on a couple of industries, primarily because where those businesses are in terms of their digital journey.
Mhm.
And two industries that we found some success are the gaming industry itself. There are multiple verticals of the gaming industry, and we play in all of them. The second market that we found some successes in healthcare. And those are the two areas that we are focusing on. We do have a few clients that are in other areas, but those are the two places where most of our business is at.
Awesome. And so I think we could safely assume that working in gaming is what led you to seeing cybersecurity threats in gaming because you had firsthand experience there. What about healthcare? These are two kind of seemingly different industries of focus. So just tell us about what led you to bring both of those industries into your business.
Yeah, I see a lot of parallels between the two industries. As iGaming has expanded in the US, as sports betting has launched in numerous states in the US, there was more digital product that was available in regulated gaming markets. Secondly, the tribal nations have been more and more exposed given that their digital surface area has been expanding, and they've got their own unique requirements around data sovereignty as well as the distributed nature of their operations,
Mhm.
that they are often in remote places. So there are some challenges around that in gaming. And frankly, when you think about healthcare, it's exactly the same kind of issue. You got healthcare providers in rural areas and remote areas. Their technology estate is often a mix of on-prem and cloud. Whereas if you look at the financial industry or generic technology industry, they have really adopted the cloud computing models much earlier than healthcare and gaming have adopted. So, in terms of their journey in the digital transformation, as well as the workloads that they deal with and the regulated environment, there are a lot of parallels. And so, our technology solutions actually have proven to be effective in both of those areas.
Excellent. Excellent. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the kind of your systems and the uniqueness of it. We know that you have built a proprietary machine learning platform for data safety and governance. So what can you share about that?
So when we set out this business, our interest was really to figure out how we can make cybersecurity affordable. And the best way to that I know to make something affordable is to use technology. People are expensive and they're not easily recruitable. I mean, in the cybersecurity industry itself, I think there's like over 3 million jobs that are available worldwide. So
Wow.
there's really a kind of a major gap between the demand and supply of cybersecurity. But really, we built our machine learning platform to be able to do things that would take a lot of people and a lot of time to do. And so it's really about automation and the speed to
Mhm.
discover issues of interest. Our artificial intelligence algorithms are able to detect anomalous behaviors. So we were actually at the forefront of adopting machine learning. And thankfully, the underlying technology had gotten to a point where it was possible to do that.
Mm.
We decided that our machine learning platform is going to focus on not just solving the problem of today, which is really on the infrastructure, but also problems that are going to emerge in the future, which is really around data. And
I love that kind of future focus and making sure that you're preparing for the future. And clearly, you've done a lot with DruvStar. There's probably so much to be proud of. But if you had to identify what your proudest moment thus far with DruvStar has been? What would you say that would be?
Oh, there are a few. The one that comes to my mind right away is we had deployed our solution at a client. Within a week, we found some issues. The feedback we got from one of the leaders at the client site was that whatever we are going to pay you for the rest of the year, you've already earned that in the first week.
That's excellent.
I was very grateful to hear that. It's often easy to release a new product and not see the value of that for some time. The other one was when we deployed our product at a different property, and the CTO of the organization was concerned that one of the nearby properties had been attacked recently, and they wanted us to come out and look at their enterprise and see what the risk is around that. We found numerous issues within 3 days after arriving there. And the satisfaction we saw from the client around deploying our solution and discovering what the risk is to their environment so they could get ahead of the bad guys,
Mhm.
that was very satisfying as well.
Oh, I bet it is. Those are definitely some moments to be proud of, being able to immediately add value to your clients, help them with eliminating these threats and putting more safety in their business. I'm sure they were ecstatic as well. So, when you think about the future, what does your ideal future look like for DruvStar?
It's fairly modest, actually. The ideal feature for DruvStar is to make a difference in the risk profile around cybersecurity for our clients.
I love that.
And it's really as simple as that. We are really motivated to defend our clients. And we always say that we are here to defend our
Mhm.
clients. That's our tagline. That's what it has been for the last 6 years. And I don't expect that to be changing. A lot of decisions we made in the business have really been driven from that. For example, we are not a pure technology company, we are a solutions company. We want a client to get value out of our business, our product within days, not after 3 months of deploying it and learning it. You deploy a product, you get value next day from it. Our future is that we are able to make a difference to our clients' cybersecurity risk by using our technology and solutions. We wake up every day and that's all we do, and
Mhm.
that's all we'll be doing. So that's really the main thing.
Well, I love that. And you are definitely doing that. And I think that that's absolutely going to be the future. So let's talk a little bit more about specifically cybersecurity in gaming. So, when we had a conversation before today, you shared that before you founded DruvStar, you had a theory that for cybersecurity, the battle will shift from infrastructure to data. Can you explain this theory and how it's kind of been playing out in today's marketplace and in today's threat landscape?
Yeah, so this was really before founding DruvStar. The main question I was trying to explore was what will DruvStar do?
Mhm.
I was studying what the other companies are doing. There were thousands of companies that were working in the field of cybersecurity, and there were thousands of consultants that were advising various businesses around that. One of the things that I learned when we did that exercise was that there were several spaces that were overcrowded. And it
Mm.
was clear to me at that time that only a handful of companies in each of those areas are going to emerge as the true leaders. And then the rest will get acquired or they will shift to some other problem. So we were trying to solve this problem ahead of time, right? The one area that we found it was weak, and we could see that it is actually going to be an emerging and exploding space, which was really around data. The infrastructure in an organization doesn't really change that much year after year after year, whereas data in an organization grows at double digits every quarter,
Oh, wow.
right? So here was this emerging problem around data, and there
Mhm.
were very few companies focused on data safety. We recognized that there was a disparity between an emerging problem and where the investments were going. And so we chose that DruvStar is going to focus on data. Not only does it help address some of the problems that exist today, but it also addresses the problems that are going to get bigger a decade later, 2 decades later, 3 decades later. So we built a product that works across all kinds of data sources. And that's from a belief of data being kind of the most important thing in the field of cybersecurity. Now, it's just so happened that over the last decade, an average cost of a cybersecurity attack, when you look at the largest attacks, it has gone up by $5 million. Now it's depending on who you believe, it's either 6 million or 9 million. The average cost of a breach today is over $6 million, right? And the reason that has happened is anytime there is data involved in it,
Hmm.
cost of the breach goes up by 10 times.
Wow.
The industry has really moved in the direction that we projected it's going to move. And that's made our product and our expertise more and more relevant.
Absolutely. So you're forward thinking. I mean, you made a great bet and a great projection on what you thought the future was going to be with the data piece, and especially now in gaming with all of the information, all of the data, healthcare, all of that information and data. A perfect direction to go into. And you're creating solutions that's going to help us all. So that's very exciting. So you have clearly been able to observe cybersecurity challenges across multiple different types of casinos. You were mentioning earlier about some specific needs in the tribal casino area, which of course we're interested in being tribally owned, but also we have commercial casinos. And of course we have iGaming, which we also work in. So could you share with us or break down the differences between, we talk about tribal casinos, commercial casinos, and iGaming, and how your solutions can help address these unique needs?
Yeah, so we've actually deployed our solutions across iGaming, sports betting, as well as tribal casinos. And some commercial casinos have also used our products. What is really unique about tribal nations are really around their IT estate. And
Mhm.
often these are in places which are not easily accessible. And so they don't have access to the kind of talent that one would have if they were based in a large city. And they don't really have the luxury of hiring remote employees either, right?
Mm.
So talent availability becomes an issue. This is actually one of the reasons why most places we go to in travel nations, the teams are very small. Often there'll be 5 people in the whole information technology department handling large business, and while doing that, also taking care of some of the tribal operations. Also, they don't really have as much money and budget to spend in this area while they face the similar kind of risk as a large enterprise. So that represents its own unique challenges: lack of talent availability, remoteness, and budgetary constraints. But they still have to face the same kind of regulatory environments, right?
Mhm.
And they face the same kind of cybersecurity risks. And in fact, in recent times, the tribal nations and their properties have been increasingly getting attacked by the bad guys. We've been at the forefront of addressing that risk and addressing the issue that the tribal nations have around that. I think it was just our timing that we got into this business and the tribal nations were just emerging as a target. It was just fortunate timing for us that we were able to get in there and make a small difference in this problem for the tribal industry. I think same story because iGaming and sports betting really has expanded over the last 5 or 6 years, and we launched our business around that time. So it's just that emerging trend, and we were an emerging company, so we found some success. Also, my personal and professional network of late has been from the gaming enterprises and iGaming enterprises in particular. That was helpful that we had a level of trust coming from the same industry.
Mm.
If you kind of look at the common trends between those two, what's really made a difference is that we have a unique understanding of the gaming workloads, whether those in the tribal industry or whether they are on the iGaming world. It gives us an advantage because we are able to provide a better value to our client than a generic cybersecurity solution might provide. Understanding of gaming workloads means that if somebody says, well, come and take a look at my system, they'll probably get 2 to 3 times more value from our work than they will get from someone who's not from the gaming industry.
I'm just going to kind of emphasize on that point that your company knows the gaming industry, and regular cybersecurity companies, even if they're employed to do a gaming solution, they may not have that intimate knowledge because you've worked in gaming. So you can put forth stronger solutions to be able to solve those problems. You mentioned a little bit about some of these bad actors. And I know, we all know that iGaming platforms, because there's a lot of cash that goes through them, they can attract a lot of these nefarious people and bad actors. So, what are some of the most sophisticated types of attacks that you're seeing in this space, specifically iGaming?
I would call out three. One is that they're constantly trying to penetrate an organization through the users. A C-level executive or any staff member, they're coming at it every day, every hour of the day through emails and other manners. That remains a large surface area. Usually humans are the weakest link in the cyber defense. And so the industry has been trying to focus on that by educating users through security awareness, by building out email security solutions.
Mhm.
The second area I would call out is critical infrastructure, which might be outdated. Almost every enterprise I've seen, they have some outdated systems that are due to be replaced. And so bad guys often will do a surveillance of the IT estate, and they'll find these devices and they will exploit the weaknesses that exist in that. Taking this discussion now further to the specific area of iGaming, over there, there's a lot of attacks that happen on their websites or through the mobile apps that results in somebody getting into a consumer's account. Those are the three that I would call out are most prominent.
Yeah, those are definitely some scary threats. I think almost every company gets like those random emails trying to fish and get information. So when you think about companies, just in general, deploying cybersecurity solutions, what are some of the common mistakes that are made?
Well, the biggest lesson I've learned running a cybersecurity company is you're only as good as your visibility.
Mm.
If there was one thing I want everybody to walk away from this discussion is, get your visibility, the rest will follow. What I mean by that is often we'll go in and kind of say, well, I've got a solution deployed, right? And what you'll discover is that solution doesn't actually cover everything it needs to cover,
Mm.
right? And so that's why we are very, very diligent about that, because you might be focused on 80% of the estate, but it's the 20% or even 2% that's left exposed that people are not aware of,
Mm.
that that's going to create the same amount of risk in a business. That's why actually our products are called threat insights, data vision.
Mm.
And we believe that if you have visibility, then you'll have your eyes on it, and then you have a chance of catching it. The fundamental thing that I want to talk about here is getting full visibility of your IT estate, because then you'll be able to understand the risk and you'll be able to put mitigation strategies.
Well, that makes complete sense. So thank you for all of your amazing insights about cybersecurity in general and in gaming. So let's switch the gears a little bit here and let's talk about leadership. We want to start with asking you, what do you think the qualities are that make a good leader?
It's really simple. The person needs to be reliable and they need to be able to develop and communicate a vision effectively. After that, it's all about staying the course and guiding the team, building your team to meet the needs that you need to meet, and then guiding the team and supporting the team through that.
Absolutely. Now, we are aware that you were part of a management program early in your career, and you've credited this for making you a leader. Can you share some key principles from that program that have helped guide your career and your leadership style and approach?
Yeah, I was referring to the training I went through as I worked at various companies, in particular at Sun Microsystems, where I spent nearly a decade. I learned a few things through that experience. First and foremost is to be able to try and understand the problems that you're going to try and address. I talked about early on understanding consumer trends, technology trends, and all of that fits into that is that you got to be able to understand not just what's happening within a setting, but also be able to take a step back and look at the larger picture. So you got to have that dual capability to look at the micro level as well as the macro level. That has been instrumental in me and my success. That's one. The second one is really around learning how to work well with others. When I was promoted to director of software engineering, Sun had this program. When you get promoted into a senior position, they asked you to go and see two or three other leaders and get their advice. I'll share a couple of those insights, which were very helpful to me then and have remained helpful to this date. Someone said, well, figure out the value you're going to add to an organization. And that is a key thing. It's not sufficient just to do your daily job. You have to understand how you're adding value to your team, to your company. That's for you to figure out. You can get others' help, but you have to figure that out. And you have to be clear headed about that. The second person I went and saw, um, his advice was that what you say actually is very impactful because you now have a more powerful title
Mhm.
that when you speak in a meeting, what you say actually is impactful. And you got to be aware of that your words actually do make a difference because of your position as well as the setting you're speaking in.
Well, those are definitely some amazing leadership gems. I like that approach to talk to other leaders, kind of get that peer mentorship as you move into that role. It's definitely something I think I'm going to employ in the future for either some other leaders that work under me or just some other programs. I can make those suggestions. I love that. So, you've been a leader at organizations and you've led large global teams, very diverse teams, which takes a certain type of leadership style to be successful in doing that. So, what approaches did you find most effective in order for you to be successful leading those types of large, global, diverse teams?
In terms of building and leading large global teams, I think a few things. One is these large global teams existed to serve a purpose, and really it was to either deliver a product or deliver a service for consumers or technology clients. Often I would have a team that was distributed across 8, 9, 10 different locations. And so what I found more effective was you got to form a small nucleus of a team in any place, and then you can build around that. That helps building the culture, as well as it's a lot more efficient to have a few locations worldwide. The other one is communication is huge, right? So you have to communicate with the team on a regular basis. You have to stay on message. You have to be clear about your vision. I always had one-on-ones with all of my direct reports, no matter where they were. But even those people who do not report directly to me, I would always have meetings either on a monthly or a quarterly basis. A leader has to invest in the global team, and that goes a long way. There are other ways of communicating as well. It's not just doing meetings, it's actually sending out emails, acknowledging people's emails, even if you don't have anything to say beyond, I have heard you, right?
Yeah, I love
That
that.
is important. That is very important. This is a lesson I learned about 25 years back. I wasn't doing this at that time. And so people would send me a status report and I would just read it and move on. And there was one young lady who joined my team, and she said, I sent you 3 emails, but I've not heard back from you. I know you're very busy, but can you at least acknowledge it? And it was great. She was very helpful to me because that really changed my behavior,
Oh, wow.
her reach out. So I then kind of have been, I make an effort when I read a message, I'll at least acknowledging received, confirmed, acknowledged, whatever the case may be. I do that deliberate, and I've been deliberate about that for a few decades now.
I love that. Good for her for speaking up and expressing her need, and then you understanding that, hey, this is something I should be doing. I love it.
I'm delighted that she felt comfortable doing that.
That's excellent. Excellent. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about some trends in the future. So, when you look at the future of cybersecurity, what are some trends that you are expecting to see?
The two trends I want to talk about is the emergence of data. And so having some guardrails around data and your AI systems, which are also based on data, is very important. The second thing I'll talk about is there's always going to be new emerging technologies. Today, that's more about generative AI. We had the same risks around iGaming solutions. We have the same risk around AI systems. It's about understanding who's actually using those systems. How are they using it? If you can begin to get visibility around that, then you can build an assurance program that you understand what is happening inside those systems and that you can actually trust that system to be a reliable solution.
Absolutely. You mentioned about AI and specifically generative AI, and we know Gen AI is just transforming so many things. What will the impact be for cybersecurity, specifically related to generative AI?
It's huge. Cybersecurity, it actually has applicability on both sides and it is being applied today. The attackers are using generative AI. They have gotten more effective in their communications. Folks like me are using it to provide a high level of automation to respond to those attacks. My company in particular uses generative AI to try and understand how good somebody's cybersecurity program is. If you give us a set of policies, in a matter of minutes, we are able to use technology to figure out what it takes. That used to take weeks and months. Now it's a matter of minutes. So it's really the speed of the work as well as the quality of the work is improving.
Absolutely. And every week, every day, sometimes it's some new model, it's some new progress that's being made. But, that ability to take something that's weeks or even months and take it down to minutes, it's transformative on a business in terms of your effectiveness and your efficiency Now it raises the expectation from clients, et cetera, right? They know we can do it faster, you can do it better. We all gonna have to figure out how we fit it within this system, but be able to leverage these technologies to help us all be better at what we do every day. And that's the exciting part. This has been amazing, and we are going to wrap it up. So we'll ask one last question here, which is, what advice would you give to young professionals who are looking to get their start in either gaming, tech, or cybersecurity?
My advice would be to gain core competency in certain area of your field of work. I actually launched a mentorship program at one of the universities in Las Vegas, and it's the same advice I give there as well.
Mm.
The second thing that has really helped me, which I advise others, is learn how to work well with others,
Mhm.
which includes understanding the value you can bring to the organization and going beyond just your daily job. The next thing I would say is, as you apply yourself to work, try and understand the client's problems, their pain points, what their job is. It goes a long way in understanding what you need to do to enhance a client's experience. Lastly, I would say that they should learn how to enjoy the work they do. That's very important, because if they enjoy it, it will not feel like a job. It will feel like something that is more of a hobby. And so I love technology. I love working. I've been really fortunate to work at Sun Microsystems, IGT, Aristocrat, DruvStar. None of those were just jobs for me. That's kind of been my experience, and that's what I would advise others to follow.
That's amazing advice. Thank you for sharing that insight. And I want to just thank you for being with us today, for sharing all of the information. It's very insightful for me. I'm pretty sure it'll be insightful for our listeners. Thank you for being on with Level Up with Wondr.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. It's been really wonderful to speak with you.
Thank you for listening to Level Up with Wondr. Visit wondernation.com/level up for more podcast episodes about how we're reimagining the gaming entertainment industry. Want to level up your business? Visit our contact page at wondernation.com to inquire about our strategic consulting or management services.